Hello everyone and welcome back to my video. In today's video, we're going to be going over Cirque to CFL 2 as well as the litvitational, both events that happened this weekend in CFL. And they were both one-day events, so we're not going to spend too much time on them. But for our top 16 finishers for Cirque to CFL 2, you're going to have Aaron, Mello, Mike, Luis, and Chase in 13th. Goblin, Veery, Dominator, and Peanut in 9th. In 7th, you're going to have Jen and Lima. 5th, Mutes and Karama. 4th place, Jake. 3rd place, DeBuzz. 2nd place, Light. And winning the entire thing, you had Zomba. And for the Litvitational, for our top 16, you're going to have Whumpy, Goblin, Kiki, and Goblin in 13th. Aaron, Epic Gabriel, Jake, and Chase in 9th. Karama, Beast Mode, Paul in 7th. Luis, Peanut in 5th. Mutes in 4th. Zomba in 3rd. DeBuzz in 2nd. And winning the entire thing, you had Light. Now, we're going to be spending a majority of our time on Cirque to CFL, but there are a couple matches that happen at both tournaments, and I want to talk about the differences of the results of those matches, but let's start with Cirque to CFL, specifically with Veery's run, because they popped off insanely hard this weekend. Rob is a character that we've seen have success on a lot of levels. I mean, you literally have Zomba winning the tournament, but Veery was able to get wins on Karama, Sonito, and Luis. Just an absolutely ludicrous performance, and a lot of players in this tournament got fairly low placements because so many people got upset really early on. Most notably, you're going to have Luis and Karama getting upset really early on. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I also want to give a huge shout out to Mello Mike, who ended up getting 13th place. He was able to get a bunch of really nice wins, most notably on players like Squid Plumber and Amnesty, so huge shouts to him for that. Editing proof block here, I feel like I really didn't encapsulate the scale of Mello Mike's run. He lost in his first match of the day and ended up getting 17th place, winning 7 sets in a row on the loser side of the bracket. So again, huge props to him for this amazing run. And also he plays Captain Falcon. When we're talking about underperformances, you're going to have both Luis and Aaron bowing out at 13th place, as well as Chase. Now, it's not the end of the world, it's still 13th place, and players like Luis were able to pick up some decent wins because Luis got upset extremely early on by GS Wizzy, and he was still able to get wins on Mysterica, Sap, Samsora, and Riku. Now, as for Aaron and Chase, they did not have as much of a loser's run, so they didn't get as many amazing wins. You're going to have Aaron with a win over Lol, Yoshi, and Chase with a win over Unova, but ultimately all those players ended up getting 13th, and they were all top 8 seeds again. It's not the end of the world. Yes, it is an underperformance, but it's not by a massive scale. You're still getting top 13 at a B tier event, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. You're going to have Anathema bowing out at 17th place alongside Omega and Riku, but again, you're going to have Anathema losing to Karama's losers run, can't feel too bad about that. Riku losing to Luis's losers run, can't feel too bad about that, and Omega losing to Jen's losers run, which I'll get to in a little bit. So most of the underperformances at this event happened because another top player just kind of met someone in the loser side of bracket, and one of them had to go down. And the final 2 players I want to talk about before moving on to the top 8 are going to be Dominator and Peanut. Dominator was able to pick up wins on Chase and Samsora, some really nice upsets from him, and he just had the misfortune of fighting Light in the winner side and Karama in the loser side. So realistically, I could see this run going way deeper if he didn't run into 2 top 20 players in the world, so just kind of unlucky there. Peanut as well popped off super hard, got a win over Epic Gabriel and Veery in the main bracket, ended up losing to Mutes in the winner side in a very close set, and then in the loser side of the bracket fell to Jen in a similarly close set. But at the Litvitational, he was able to get wins over Zomba, Goblin, and Mute. So even though Mute still does get that run back in the main bracket, Cirque still insanely impressive. He's able to take out 2 top 20 caliber players. And I would say that Peanut is the best Mega Man in the world, at least in terms of solo main Mega Mans, because it's always going to be a bit of an interesting conversation because Kamehameha's Mega Man is still obviously insane. He's a top 10 player in the world. But in terms of people that are just playing Mega Man, I would say that Peanut takes the cake. He is so good with this character. But actually, before we talk about the top 8 of Cirque, I want to really quickly mention Beast Mode Paul. He didn't do as well in the main bracket of Cirque, ends up getting 33rd, but to be fair, he lost to Jen and J Mafia, who were 2 incredibly talented players, but at the Invitational, he looked very impressive, ended up getting 7th place with wins over players like Peanut, Kobe, and Aaron, who have all been doing insanely well, especially Aaron. He's been looking really phenomenal as of late. So big ups to Beast Mode Paul for that. He also had a Sephiroth that did a decent amount of work this bracket. I personally didn't know he had a Sephiroth. I knew him for the hero, but both characters were absolutely farming this weekend. So big props to Beast Mode Paul for the run. So let's kick off this top 8. Our 7th place finishers are going to be Jen and Lima. Both of these players were not at the Invitational, so we're just going to talk about their Cirque runs. For Jen, he was able to pick up wins on Beast Mode Paul in the winner side of bracket, as well as Goku. Fell to DeBuzz, which you can't feel too bad about. I mean, it's DeBuzz. He's amazing. And then in the loser side, he was able to beat Omega, Aaron, and Peanut. Really nice run from Jen. He's not a player that we see a ton at these bigger events. For reference, last time we saw him was at Gommel, ends up getting 33rd at that event, where he also beat Omega. So Kind of unfortunate for Omega. This guy goes to like 4 events a year and he beats you there every single time. But Jen, one of the best Palutena players in America, and there's a lot of very good Palu players. And honestly, I think if he was consistently going to events, he could potentially take that title of best Paul. I mean, he was the highest placing Paul at the event, but that's a topic for another day. Lima is going to be our other 7th place finisher, definitely the best Bayo in America, and there's a lot of very good Bayo players. He was able to get wins on Tachyon, Aaron, and Viri, only losing to the Buzz and Jake. Again, can't really feel too bad about those losses. And Lima, I mean, he is so incredible. I really like his playstyle of Bayonetta as well, because his playstyle is, I'm just going to camp you, which is probably correct with this character because her movement is so insanely well. And the way that Lima's been playing as of late, he is looking like one of the best players in America. He's someone that gets slept on a lot in general. So big ups to Lima. Absolutely ridiculous player. In 5th place, you're going to have Mudace and Karama, and both these players were at Litvitational, so I will really quickly cover their performances there. For Mudace, he's going to end up getting 4th at the Litvitational, beating Jake, Luis, Kobe, Epic, Gabriel, Beast Paul, and Luis again, only losing to Peanut and Zomba. And at Cirque, he ends up getting 5th place, so a little bit of an underperformance technically because he was the 4th seed, but also whatever, it's by 1 placement. He ends up getting wins on Squid Plumber, Riku, and Peanut, so he was able to get his run back, only losing to Light and Jake, and we'll talk about that Jake rematch when we're talking about Jake himself. So it's a decent performance from Mudace, nothing crazy, but nothing really, really bad either. Karama is going to have his 7th place at Litvitational, wins on Kiki, Huampi, and Jake, only losing to Light, DeBuzz, and Zombo, who are literally 3 of the best players in America right now. Actually, Tweak is definitely up there as well, but of the top 4, they are the 3 of them, so not that bad at all. And at Cirque to CFL, he lost extremely early on to Viri, as I already mentioned, was able to win 8 sets in a row in the loser side of bracket on his run to 5th, beating players like Kobe, Osh9, Anathema, Mellow Mike, Dominator, and Jen, but then running into the boss, which is honestly just a really bad draw. At the Litvitational, he tried the Corn versus the boss, and though it didn't work, I like that he tried it out, and then Corn is actually a pretty decent counterpick into Rosalina, and there were signs of, like, if he puts a little bit more time into that Corn, I think that's honestly going to be a super viable counterpick, but going Mario against the boss is just a really tough draw. I think Rosalina does fairly well versus Mario, and also DeBuzz is just insanely good versus the character, but I like that Karama is cooking new ideas. Editing proof block here. I also just forgot to mention that Lima's Corn is actually getting a pretty decent amount of usage as well, so Corn at the secondary, maybe the truth. In 4th place, you're going to have Jake. 3rd place to Buzz. Jake was one of the big question marks coming into this weekend because we just haven't seen him at the top level of competitive Smash for a little bit. Now, the last event that he went to, at least the last big event that he went to, I believe, was CEO. Before that, it was Collision. So it's been a while since we've seen him at the top level, and he was very impressive here. Not as good at the Litvitational, but he was still able to beat players like Kobe and Goblin. But the main bracket is where he really shined. He was able to take out players like Omega, J Mafia, Chase, Goblin, Lima, and Mudace was able to get his run back versus Mudace, which is insanely impressive considering that Mudace is one of the best players in the world versus Steve. He has literally beaten Aquila before, but it shows that Steve is a character that you can play in so many different ways. Yeah, maybe you could beat the best player in the world, but Jake has a very different style of Steve that didn't work out for Mudace, at least on the 2nd time around, so big upset for that. And then he ended up losing to Light and DeBuzz, which you can't feel too bad about. Again, 2 of America's top best. Speaking of DeBuzz, popped off this weekend insanely hard. 2nd place at Litvitational and 3rd place at Cirque. I'll talk about the Litvitational after because he did better there. At Cirque, though, he was able to get wins on players like Jen, Lima, Karama, and Jake, only losing to Zomba and Light. Now, Zomba's the player that he has been trading sets with back and forth, and overall, he does have a winning record, though a majority of the recent encounters have been going into Zomba's favor. For reference, of their last 5 encounters, Zomba is going to be winning 4 of them, but I want to talk about the Litvitational because at this event, DeBuzz was able to beat Epic Gabriel, Chase, Aaron, Karama, Luis, and Light. He was able to get his first win on Light in the post-quarantine era, which is massive for him. Now, he did lose both sets in the grand finals, but both of them did go to Game 5, and huge props to DeBuzz. I mean, that is such a massive mental barrier to get over, and even though he did overall go negative against Light, I think it's 3-1 in Light's favor this week, and that is still a big W for DeBuzz, and his hard work is definitely paying off. And our grand finalists are going to be Light in 1st and Zomba in 2nd. Now, Light was probably the most successful player of the weekend, was able to get a win at Litvitational with wins on players like Huampi, Kiki, Karama, Aaron, Peanut, Zomba, and 2 wins on DeBuzz, only dropping that 1 to DeBuzz. Like I already mentioned, he was definitely the favorite going into both of these events, and he did not quite win Cirque to CFL, was able to get wins on players like Lol, Yoshi, Jake, Dominator, Mudace, and DeBuzz, but Zomba was able to double eliminate him. Now, I will say, in the winner side of bracket, there was a little bit of of interference. I think the power went out or something, and they had to call a little bit of a pause between the set, which is obviously unfortunate. But in the loser side, Zomba looked so good when Light was in the loser side. I mean, and let's just talk about Zomba because he popped off super hard this weekend. Obviously, winning Cirque is massive. At the Litvitational, didn't do as well, dropping sets to Luis, Light, and Peanut, but still picking up wins on Goblin, Beast Mode, Paul, Chase, Karama, getting his revenge on Peanut and Munis. And in the main bracket of Cirque, he just absolutely farmed, beating Anathema in the Rob Ditto, which I've been praising Anathema for a very long time now. Goblin, DeBuzz, and 2 wins on Light. So Zomba, one of the best players in America, probably in contention for that #1 spot. It's really tough to say just because him, Light, and Tweak have all been having incredible performances as of late, with a couple underperformances from Zomba. Most notably, he's going to have that lower placement at Smash Factor, and DeBuzz is also something that I kind of have to throw in that conversation. Mudace, when he's playing well. America as a region, I feel like, is finally starting to reclaim itself as one of the best in Smash, because there's a little bit where America was falling off. I'm not going to lie, but with Zomba doing really well again, with DeBuzz finding his stride, seems like NA is finally saved, and I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The support has been absolutely unreal as of late. If there's a player that I left out, something I got wrong, or if you just want to say hi, please leave a comment down below. Be sure to sub, all that yada yada, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!